how I escaped generational poverty. Interesting. We got a story for you today. Alrighty, boys. So this is today's letter. Howdy, Fi Guys. I know this doesn't fit what you usually share, but I wanted to write in and tell you how I escaped generational poverty. And maybe someone listening will see themselves in my story. This one's probably more for the younger crowd, but here it goes. I grew up broke, like trailer park broke. Both of my parents worked minimum wage jobs and have always been behind, living paycheck to Tuesday. I've heard paycheck to paycheck, but I've never heard paycheck to Tuesday. What does that mean, Chris?
I would assume that if you get paid on Friday, you only make it to Tuesdays. Your money only made it a few days, and now you're going to have to somehow float till the next paycheck. So I guess there is a worse than paycheck to paycheck.
That's crazy. Okay. Their parents were single moms in the service industry, and their dads weren't around. There wasn't a financial plan. It was just survival. I started working retail at 16 years old, and I stuck with it. I worked hard and said yes to every shift, every eventual move up to shift leader, and then I eventually moved up to assistant. Nice. By 25, I was a store manager at a small clothing company, about 200 stores, making around $45,000. This was back then in 2010, and for me, that felt like a lot of money. My mom passed away the next year, and with nothing really tying me down, I was open to relocating. I got recruited by a bigger retailer and was offered a $75,000 paycheck. Plus, they paid for me to move. Oh, that's nice.
Cool.
I ended up in a rough store, but I kept my head down. I hit my numbers, and I proved myself. This was around 2019, and 2019 feels like last year, honestly. Crazy.
That was before COVID, man.
That's crazy work. Crazy. Not long after, I got picked up by another company, kind of a competitor, and I made a bit of a career shift into HR and benefits. I started at the lower level, but they matched my pay. Over time, I earned certifications paid for by the company, and worked up to a more specialized role. Now I make around $125,000 plus bonuses. It's not some glamorous story. I gave up a lot. Nights, weekends, holidays. I missed birthdays, weddings, and a lot of sleep. But now at 38, I'm married, I own a home, and I have a son who's growing up completely different than the world that I did. We've got a solid 401k, and I've worked fully remote Monday through Friday, and my wife stays at home with our son. That's awesome. That's super awesome.
That's so cool.
I love that. I only have a high school diploma. I didn't take the traditional route, but I made it out. And honestly, I believe I ended the cycle of generational poverty in my family. My son will never have to experience what I did, but he's still learning the value of hard work and a dollar. So yeah, I guess the secret was 20 years of grinding in retail, saying yes when others said no, and not being afraid to move when the opportunity came. Maybe not the sexiest story, but it's my story. Thanks for all that you do. I really hope this helps someone out there. From trailer to trophies, no degree, just grit and groceries. How about that? Well, not a lot of notes on this one. That's pretty cool. That's wonderful. Well, we love people getting out of generational debt. And Chris, what do you have to say about this one?
You know, first off, like no notes. Normally in Five Friday feedback, someone writes in asking us a question. But on this one, all I have to say is thank you for sharing. I think the story that this person wrote in, it's powerful, it's raw, it's real. And it's the exact kind of thing that people need to hear. No fluff, just truth. Truth of what somebody actually went through to get where they want to go. And what I think like hit me the most on this is that this person, it wasn't an overnight success story. It was built on grit, sacrifice, and consistency over years, over decades, honestly, to get where they want to go, which I think is so important in today's age where everyone on TikTok, everyone on social media, whatever, is saying like, oh, this is what I did to become where I want to get to overnight. It took me 10 seconds and, you know, this AI chatbot, and now look at me, I'm a millionaire. What I love about this listener that wrote in is that they didn't wait for the perfect conditions. They took what they had and they kept saying yes to the hard stuff, to the stuff that everyone else said, I don't want to do it. I'm not going to be able to do that. Like, what about me? Why should I have to try harder than other people? To our listener specifically, to the writer of the thing, you climbed out of a trailer park with no degree and you built a 6-figure career with benefits, a home, and the peace of your family. That is legacy work. That is truly breaking the cycle. Your kid will never have to know what you went through. You put in there that you were living paycheck to Tuesday. And that's the first time that Dominic and I have ever heard of it. Like, that paints such a vivid picture of how tight things were growing up. That phrase alone will stay with me. Like, I'm going to start using that. Like, are you paycheck to paycheck? You paycheck to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Like, where's it? Stop it. You didn't just survive. You moved when opportunity came. You took on tough roles. You earned certificates and you made yourself a valuable asset for everywhere that you worked in. Something that everyone needs to learn how to do. To not realize that just because you exist, that you deserve to have everything. You exist, therefore you are a real person. Therefore you deserve to be treated with decency. But that does not mean that you deserve to be a rich person just because you exist. That you deserve to have everything that you want just because you exist. You can have anything that you want, but you can't have everything that you want. You're honest about the cost, about missed holidays, nights, and weekends. But now you've earned back your life and your time. And your family gets to live a different story because of that, because of the sacrifices that you put in. You're showing people that they don't need MBAs, they don't need college degrees, they don't need 6 figures of debt. That they don't need a trust fund to be able to build wealth. You just need work ethic, willingness to move, and the courage to just play the long game and stick with it, even when things are tough. Because I know you didn't really write about it, but I'm sure there were times where you were questioning every single day, what the hell am I doing? But now you're 38 years old. You get to look back on the last 22 years and say, all of that work got me to a remote job, a good 401k, a stay-at-home spouse, a son who will grow up never knowing the kind of struggles that you had to, but still learning the value of hard work, still learning the value of honesty, still learning the value of what money means. And that money isn't the goal, but it damn well helps facilitate whatever the goal is. Honestly, I'm honored that you shared your story on our show, because there's someone out there who needs this kind of story. Someone who feels stuck and needs to just hear for one time that there is a way out. It's not easy, but it's possible. Too often in our society, the biggest issue is that people have no hope. And without that hope, they're never going to try to strive for something more, because what's the point? So to our writer, major respects to you. You didn't just change your own life. You changed the trajectory of the next generation and the generation to follow and follow and follow. This is what people mean when they say be a good ancestor. It's be like this writer. Be the person that broke the trauma. Be the person that changed everything, not just for their kid, but for their kids, their kids, their kids. And we get to choose that every single day, not just a writer. All of us, myself, Dominic, our listener, we all get to make a decision every single day, not just to be a good person to advance ourselves, but to advance society, advance the next generation, advance our kids, their kids, because you never know what small little thing that you do today can make a huge ripple and be that tidal wave of change that will change everything. If you look back through history, there are small moments, small, insignificant moments that changed the course of history. The 2 bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in World War II were supposed to be dropped on 2 completely different locations. One of them was Kyoto. The only reason it wasn't is because one of the people who was in the room that day that they made the decision went to Kyoto on a vacation years prior and really, really liked it. So he fought to not have the bomb drop there. One guy saved thousands of lives. Unfortunately, they killed other thousands of lives, but that one decision. Additionally, the one that was supposed to be dropped on Hiroshima, that was supposed to be dropped in another city, and I can't remember what it is, but due to cloud cover that day, they decided to drop it where they dropped it. Small, insignificant decisions can be everything. And you don't know what those small, insignificant decisions are going to be. Oftentimes, the thing that you think is going to make the change isn't. So all you can do is just keep on showing up, keep on working, and know, or at least hope, that whatever you do is going to be the thing that makes the biggest change. This person showed up every single day. They worked hard, and now they get to look at the fruits of their labor and be proud. And hopefully their great grandkids will look back and be like, that guy was the guy that changed it. They might not know your name. They might not know your birthday. They might not know your death date. But there will be stories told about you through the generations of somebody back then made a choice so that we could be here today. Somebody back then for your family made a choice so that you are where you are today. And you can sit there and say that that's wrong or that it's right, or they could have worked harder or less. Who cares? You need to make a choice today so that someone can look back on you without knowing your name, without knowing your story, and say that somebody did it. And you can know in your heart, in the grave, that you were the one. That's all that matters. How you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. And if you want that to be important, you want that to be good, then live to your values. Work hard. And don't lie, don't cheat, don't become the kind of person that you tell yourself you want to be. Be the person that you want to be. I'm done.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.